We're in Cobham, Virginia. This is where my family is from. I really wanted my children to be able to carry on that sense of connection to this area. For me, it's really important to continue that legacy and to preserve this area.
For many African Americans, piecing together family lineage is a daunting task. There's just not enough information in plain sight to make it easy.
I was only able to take my research to about 1860, which is typical for African Americans here in this country. But after connecting with Sam, I was able to really go back even further and connect my family directly to the plantation here locally, which is right around the corner from where everyone grew up.
Lorenzo contacts me and said, I'm researching the Dickerson family at Castle Hill. Can you help me?
Today we'll meet an Albemarle County family that's been able to make amazing progress in tracing their lineage. They've been able to do this by searching in some pretty interesting places, uncovering their own hidden history.
Albemarle County, Virginia is situated in the red clay foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's home to the University of Virginia, a number of wineries, outdoor recreation, and of course, a ton of history. Sam Towler has been uncovering some of this history, finding names and creating lineages from old, unopened criminal and civil court records. He's been able to identify several current Black communities that have grown from one or more descendants after emancipation.
So Sam, talk about your process and how you have gone about researching genealogy.
In Albemarle in 1867, the tax collector of the personal property tax wrote down where all the African American men were living who were paying the tax. So I used those names as a start. Then I go to the census and find them in the census. Who did they marry? Who their kids are? I go and check marriage records, birth and death records. Then I looked at deeds, and then I started looking at chancery cases, which are the same thing as civil suits.
And so you're able to take whatever records you can find from the enslaved and sort of match it with plantation owners and make that connection. Is that what happens?
Filmmaker Lorenzo Dickerson has worked with Sam to uncover some of his family's history. His lineage really started to open up while researching for his film, The Coachman.
My very first film was called The Coachman. It's about my second great grandfather who grew up right here in this area. And the whole reason that I made that film was because I wanted to delve into my history as much as possible and build out my family tree. When I was making that very first film and doing that research, I could only take my research but so far. I knew who the coachman was. His name was Warren Dickerson. I knew where he went, but someone suggested that I reach out to Sam because he's an amazing researcher.
Utilizing his extensive research into local historical documents, Sam was able to help Lorenzo complete his film and greatly expand his knowledge of his family tree. Lorenzo takes me on a tour of Cobham, as well as the cemetery. As a result of he and Sam's research, these names and places have much more meaning now.
This is St. John Road, so this is where the African Americans in the area live, right here on this road. They're all connected, mostly all family. Yeah, this is where I grew up. This is where my father grew up, my grandparents grew up. So right now we're at Zion Hill Baptist Church. This is the Dickerson family home church. This is where many of the Dickerson family are buried. I've always known that my grandfather's stone was here, but some of my great-grandfather's aunts are also here. I've seen these stones, didn't know who they were. So in my research, I was able to find that out and build that greater connection. I finally knew exactly who these people were and the fact that I was related to them. Before I started to have kids, I wanted to delve into my history as much as possible and build out my family tree so that my children would have it. Today, I have two sons, and they have their family tree on their wall, poster size, with pictures and everyone's name.
One of the great things about expanding your family tree is that you never know who may pop up as a relative. Diane Brown Towns also lives in Albemarle County and recently discovered some of her own family hidden history.
So how much of your family history do you know?
My mom always talked about her side of the family a little bit more. She grew up in the western end of Albemarle County. My father's family was a lot larger than I thought because he just really, I don't think he knew his family, so that's probably why he didn't talk about them. And a lot of people were just working and they just didn't take the time out to learn anything about their families.
Last year, for Liberation Day, the Historical Society asked me to do a Zoom on my Monticello work. So I go and tell about Aggie Dickerson and her brother Wilson, and they owned a house in town in Charlottesville. And I got a picture of the house and I gave the address.
And I always go to these things with an open mind because you never know what you might find out about your own family. And then I saw the PowerPoints and I saw this house. And I said, what is Sam Towler doing with my aunt's house in his presentation? I was just blown away by that.
What was it like when you learned that Lorenzo Dickerson was related to you?
I think it's liberating. I just think it's funny a little bit because Lorenzo and I have sort of worked and collaborated on film projects before. I was able to learn about a whole new community over in Harrisonburg. And so I was just blown away by that because it's just like, oh man, it's just like the genealogy angels are just gifting us this information. But I think it was meant to be. I think it was meant, everything comes full circle.
I know Diane Brown Towns, but we never did figure out exactly how we're connected until Sam came into the picture and was able to connect us and do that research to show that we're actually distant cousins.
For African American families, being able to connect this history means a more full and meaningful understanding of self as well as contributions to this country.
Really, the importance to the family legacy and having this information is really further connecting us to this place. It's very easy to feel disconnected as time goes on. So for me, it's really important to continue that legacy and to preserve this area for the generations that come behind me. Genealogy research is really important to African American families because we were deliberately disconnected from that history initially. And today we can go back and figure that information out and reconnect ourselves to this place and to the people that are there. I would suggest that African Americans do that research, ask those questions from their elders. It doesn't have to be your parent or grandparent. It can be an uncle or a cousin, but ask those questions and start there.
These connections are just the beginning for Lorenzo and Diane. There's still much unknown about their family and the connections. They're excited about what's to come and encourage families to explore their own American homeland roots.
We learned today that connection to place is an important part of family history. The Dickerson story is just one of many. So I hope it encourages you to pull out those family records or old family Bibles, or even visit your local courthouse so that you can begin to explore your own hidden history.